don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to copy this link. And, okay, are we live? I feel like I have to whisper. I don't know why. I'm like, secrets. This is so weird. Chat filter. I know I'm gonna wait for one person because we talked about it, but well, I guess I'll just start maybe. I also don't know like what's gonna happen like with the chat. Does it just pop up? This is so weird. Okay. Okay. Hi everyone. For everyone in posterity, I'm Alexandra Larson, and this is me reading you a book. Yeah, I feel like I'm still whispering. Okay, it's fine. Let's just get into this. So I went out to the gas station specifically to buy an energy drink for this, and I was like, I can't just get like a Red Bull. Like I have to get like a Rockstar, right? Like I have to get a Rockstar. So I went, and luckily they had one, but it was like, I think Rockstar is like not a thing as big as a thing of it used to be, because they only had like one like kind. So I got like fruit punch. So I'd never had this before, but I feel like because it's like a Rockstar romance that we're reading here, I need to be drinking Rockstar. Which, fun fact, actually, Rockstar, how it's like one word. I don't know if you can see this because it's upside down, it's backwards, but Rockstar is not one word. It is two words, but everyone thinks it's one word. So whenever they type in like, you know, like paranormal Rockstar romance, it's going to be one word. So like all the search terms are technically one word. Or like the Nickelback song, you know, the Nickelback song, that's one word. And but when you're like grammatically like in the book, it needs to be two words. So then it also, on the book cover, I was like, I feel like I should make this one word because people aren't gonna search it. It's not gonna show up in the search if it's grammatically correct, because people don't know that it's, I don't know. So we're gonna just, it's pretty good. Fruit punch is pretty good. I think we're just gonna get started because this is for posterity purposes. And I don't know how all of this will work. So if you come in while I'm reading, I will say hi to you. Oh, there are some people. Cool. Hello, everyone. Oh, it just all happened at once. So I have no idea how long you've been here. If you've been hearing me talk about Rockstar, the energy drink. Okay, cool. Maybe is this how lives work? They just pop in all at once. But today we're going to read a demon Rockstar romance, Sell Your Soul. And I'm sorry that it's backwards, but the next live we do, I'm going to try to make it so that you can see my face while I'm reading, and then also you can like read along, because I think that'll be super fun. And this is about a rockstar sells his soul to a demoness to live out his wildest dreams, only to find out that she is his worst nightmare. So that is what we're going to get started on today. And I actually wrote this because I was obsessed with The Cruel Games by The Relentless music video, which, if you don't know, The Relentless is a fictional band based on a fictional movie. And I was just so obsessed with how like angry these people were with each other that I was like, yes, I need to write my own version of this. So hi everyone. Cool. So I'm gonna get started. Sell Your Soul. I'm not going to read you the author's note, but just so you know, if you end up reading this yourself, you might want to check that out before you get started. And my dedication is for the girls who still aren't over Kellen Kyle and Rule Archer. If you know, you know. I messaged Palais Royale for permission to use lines 11 through 14 of The Nightmares in Paradise for my epigraph. They haven't gotten back to me, and I don't think they ever will. So you'll just have to listen to the song as like the beginning credits of the movie. And you can check out the whole playlist on my website at alexandralarson.com/sellyoursoul. Or it's in the back of the book if you end up picking up the book. So, prologue. June 2018, 6 months after the deal. Remy Goulding shouldn't have done that last line of coke. He shook out his hands, trying to expel the jerky sensations riding through his body. His publicist, Jillian, shot him a get your shit together look. It was only the barest of glances, her eyes darting up from the phone camera that she was yammering into as she gave his introduction for the live stream. Remy flicked his lip ring back and forth with his tongue and tried to ignore the taste of gasoline from the residual coke trickling down his throat. The top of his mouth was numb. He really shouldn't have done that last line. Jillian had positioned him strategically in front of his tour bus. His band's name was scrawled in big letters just over his shoulder, announcing to everyone who saw them driving down the road, saw them parked at a concert festival, saw them on this goddamn live stream. They'd done it. Tilted Haze had finally made it big. His wildest dreams came true, and they were in the middle of their first sold-out stadium tour. Jillian stepped up and aligned the phone camera toward him. She glared at him over the phone, though her tone was sickly sweet as she said, "Remy, the first question that was submitted by your fans was, to what do you attribute the success of your band?" The deal I made with the demon, he thought, but instead said, "It all comes down to luck. Our band practiced and worked hard and got a lucky break when we were seen by our record company, Sprites Records. And what advice would you give to bands just starting out?" "Don't make a deal with a demon," he thought, but said, "Keep working hard and don't give up. Even if you think it isn't working, you can never know when one night will change everything for you." Just like it did for Remy that night in New Orleans, the night he met Sky, found out she wasn't just a figment of his dreams, the night she showed him what future could be possible for him if he'd only sell his soul. He shook his head. No, the night she lied about that future. "If you could go back and change anything, what would it be and why?" Jillian asked. He looked into the distance, squinting against the blaring sun. Sweat prickled on his upper lip. His heart raced. The harsh rays of light made him feel like as if he were melting, like God was staring down at him and smiting him, like hellfire was surrounding him, burning him, torturing him, but never giving him the relief of death. He'd never get that relief, never get out of this. He should have known it the second he'd seen Sky's gleaming red irises. When the corner of her mouth pulled up into that devilishly sexy smirk of hers, she was promising more than a life sentence, an eternity, and he'd taken it. He'd sold his soul to a demon, but would he go back and change it, erase the last 6 months of torture and pain that he and Sky had inflicted on each other? Maybe it was a side effect of no longer having a soul that he'd developed an addiction to the misery they made together. It'd been 3 weeks since she left, and he was hungry for another fix of her. He wanted her back yelling at him, wanted her back taunting him, wanted her back ruining his life. Just wanted her back. Remy shifted his gaze back to the phone. He could have blamed it on the bliss of the coke hitting his brain cells when he said, "I wouldn't change a damn thing." But deep down, he knew. It was the cold, hard truth. Okay, so that was the prologue. I'm going to just check what's going on here. Hi, Bailey. Hi, everyone. Cool. Okay. Cool. Awesome. I forgot to do like my disclaimers. But I do own this book. I own the copyright, so like no worries on that. And I think that was the only disclaimer. I think we're good. So now we're gonna go to chapter 1. January 2018, 1 week after the deal. The blood-orange moon hung high in the sky, casting an ominous glow over the brick roads of New Orleans. Sky knew better than to interpret it as the end of times. There was no merciful Lord coming to save those who called. A chilled wind snaked its way through the Creole townhouses. Their cast-iron balconies were empty of the usual party-goers. It might not have been the end of times, but dread shivered down Sky's spine. She couldn't help but feel the impending doom lying heavy over the city. She put her hands in her pockets, pulling her leather jacket closer to her body. The air was warm, but never as warm as it was in hell. It always took a few days to adjust. She called upon the flames that lived in her veins to heat herself up and walked faster down the sidewalk, the heels of her thigh-high boots clicking on the cement. Instinct drove her forward, the call of her prey. It raged hot under her skin when she read the band flyer stapled to a telephone pole outside the hotel she was staying at. In most respects, it was just like any other flyer. It would have been torn down in a few days, only the corners left stapled to the pock-marked wooden pole. Tilted Haze was scrawled on the top in a violent cursive font. The date and location of their show was laid out on the bottom. And in the middle, there was a hand-drawn image of a demon woman, a demoness. Her black wings peeked out from behind her shoulders. A long tail curved up from her voluptuous ass. Tiny black horns poked through her hair. She smirked at her poster viewers, her eyes twinkling and daring you to keep looking. She was a horny guy's homage to a pinup girl dressed up for Halloween. Not so unusual for a rock band, except she had Sky's face. Sky yanked the grimy bar door open and walked into Mike's. She slid into a chair at the high-top table near the back and flagged down a waitress to order herself a whiskey neat. While she waited for her drink, she fingered the flyer in her pocket, the pads for her finger folding and unfolding it until the paper became soft and malleable. The drummer was already on stage, his back to the crowd as he adjusted the position of his cymbal. The bassist hopped up beside him, and they both worked in a quick but efficient style to set up the rest of the stage. It definitely wasn't Tilted Haze's first show. The band had been playing rinky-dink bars in and around New Orleans for over 5 years. The waitress reappeared and set Sky's drink on the table. Sky mumbled her thanks, but she didn't take her eyes off the stage. The guitarist jumped on the stage and plugged in. Sky's blood sang as she blinked and allowed her demon vision to pierce the band members. They all had bright, shining souls, more powerful than most, which typically only gave off a muted glow when Sky let her red haze of her vision move over them. Any one of the members of Tilted Haze would have been good enough for Sky to mark as her target. The drummer, Liam, sat behind the drum set and did a short sound check, tapping out the tune of a familiar rock classic just to make the crowd laugh. He tossed his head back, his dark blonde, shoulder-length hair swayed, only held back from his face by a bandana tied around his forehead. He would have been the easiest target. Goofy and carefree, he'd have probably thought that Sky's proposition was just a joke until it was already done. The low thrum of the bass rung out through the bar. The bassist, Ollie, was the newest member. He might have been a good option, if only because Sky knew he was still trying to prove his worth to the band. His curly brown hair was at the stage of being too long to be short and too short to be pulled back, tumbling out from under his black and green striped beanie. The guitarist, West, walked to the microphone stand and snapped the mic into place. His dark hair was slicked back, the ends curled in at the nape of his neck. He tapped the mic, and the thump-thump jolted Sky in the belly. Testing, testing. Satisfied, he stepped back, flung his guitar strap over his head, and zipped through the opening chorus before nodding his approval to the sound guy at the back of the bar. West had a vibrant soul. He also had a drop of witch's blood in his veins, which made him impenetrable to Sky's demon magic. But it was no matter. Sky wasn't here for them. She'd already set her sights and locked her mark. Her predatory demon soul lust wouldn't let her stop until she succeeded in the hunt. "He's so hot, I just know they'll get another record deal someday," a woman said, sitting in the booth next to Sky. Her friend shifted on the ripped black plastic booth seat and asked, "Another? They already had one?" "Oh yeah, they had a deal, but they blew it up. Remy's twin brother died like 5 years ago, and Remy went off the deep end." "Sad. Yeah." Sky smirked as she sipped her whiskey. The bar filled with patrons and became standing room only as people took up space against the exposed brick wall and crumbling plaster. She straightened the lace choker her mother gave her until the crystal-clear diamond settled over the hollow of her neck. The habit was born out of excited anticipation, not nerves. Demons didn't get nervous. Hellfire tickled inside Sky's core, an instinctual knowing coming alive. The hairs on her arms rose, and the crowd hushed as the guy with long limbs appeared from the back. Memories of the nights that Sky had entered his dreams flashed through her mind. She shivered from the ghost of his touch. Distracted, she put her glass down a little too hard, and some of the alcohol splashed on her hand. His chunky black combat boots thudded across the battered wood floor, and he hiked up onto the stage, turning to his drummer to discuss something. His tight black leather pants left little to the imagination. A lustful feminine sigh came from her left. Sky wasn't the only one, enjoying the delectable curve of his ass. He ran a hand through the long black hair on top of his head, flipping the strands to one side. The drummer nodded, and the bassist and the guitarist moved into their positions. And then he turned around. Ice blue eyes, outlined by heavy black eyeliner, pierced through Sky's soulless being. The singer, Remy, wrapped his hand around the microphone. The big, gaudy rings on his fingers glistened in the light. He ripped the mic from its holder, holding it in one hand and the microphone stand in the other, giving the crowd a cocky grin as his tongue poked the corner of his mouth, fiddling with his lip ring. There was utter silence as everyone held their breath, waiting for this gorgeous man to speak. He held everyone in suspense for a minute and then lowered his lips to the mic. "How we doing tonight?" The deep cadence of his voice resonated through the sound system. A straight shot of lust struck Sky, settling as a heavy throb between her legs. The bar erupted into high-pitched screams from the girls and hooting and hollering from the guys. Remy smiled over the crowd, completely at ease with being the center of everyone's yelled adoration. He hadn't even sung yet, and they were already falling over themselves to get closer to the stage. Remy undid 2 buttons on his sleeveless denim jacket, revealing a bare chest covered in swirling ink that crawled up both sides of his neck. A metal chain dangled over his sternum. He ignored the catcalls and nodded his head to the drummer. Liam counted out the beat. Ollie's bass thrummed, and Wes plucked up an upbeat opening on his guitar, letting one note ring at the end like a tease. Tension held into the second that Remy opened his mouth. His voice was much deeper than it looked like this thin, lanky man could possess, so much more sensual than the cheap facsimile that she heard when she entered his dreams. He sang the chorus as the drums, guitar, and bass made up the cadence and flow of the song. The band played hard rock, Remy's smooth voice singing until the first verse, and then he broke into a rougher, screaming tenor. He strode up and down the stage, dancing and working the crowd, jumping on top of the speakers and interacting with the equipment as if it was his playground. The crowd knew all the words and sang along with him. In between sets, he talked to the crowd, flirted with people, chomped on his gum in a way that Sky could only describe as sexy. Maybe it was the twitch of his smile at the corner of his lips and the mischievous glint in his eyes that made everything he did on the stage seem like he'd already sold his soul for an endless supply of sex appeal. He hadn't. Of that, Sky was sure. His soul called to her. Most souls were pure white, but his was made of shining, tantalizing darkness. Sky had been drawn to the power hidden deep within him. His soul glimmered inside a protective encasement of onyx stone. It'd been a long 6 months of waiting, looking but not touching, entering his dreams and slowly coaxing his subconscious trust by intertwining her presence into his deepest desires. His dreams had been harder to penetrate than most, but all of her hard work and patience would pay off tonight. Sky ran her fingers over the flyer in her pocket, and when she saw it, she knew it was the time for the next part of her plan. She'd seeped into his psyche enough that he was drawing images of her. The flyer for his band might as well have been a wanted ad, calling out to Sky that he was ready for her offer. Adrenaline and hunger pulsed through her. His soul was so powerful it made her mouth water. This bargain would be worth several years of earth-walking privileges if she negotiated the deal just right. Tilted Haze set ended, and women scurried to the stage. Sky downed the rest of her drink and stood, exiting the bar. Time to sell your soul, Remy. So that was the end of chapter 1. Oh, Remy, I know, I'm hooting and hollering too. Cool. Okay, so I think that's where I will leave it. We will leave it on the cliffhanger because it's time for Remy to sell his soul, and we know that something is going to happen because he's going to sell his soul. So yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being here, and I hope that if you're intrigued that you'll, this is backwards, but I hope that you'll look up Sell Your Soul. You can find it on my website, alexandralarson.com/sellyoursoul. It's on Amazon, Google Play, all the regular places, and I'll see you soon. Bye!